I jumped here for a second. This one over here is something which is only available on the nav and on the live, which is the alerts. And basically is when you go into a turn point, when certain things happen, it's configured to warn you or not warn you. Okay, so you can configure what you want to know. So for instance, I can configure it. I want to know when I've done a turn point. Yes. I want to know when the start is opened. Yes. I want to know when I have enough altitude to do the goal if I'm flying a competition. Or I want to have a warning, audio warning, that I'm violating airspace. Okay?
In which instruments are these features?
To change the alerts, only the nav and the live have got this function. On the GPS, the alerts are always on.
Okay.
So it doesn't let
so
you
I don't
off.
have to care and...
Yeah, you don't have to care. Yeah. It will always be on. Okay, here's the trace. Let's see if I can get a better screen. Okay. With the trace is a track which is drawn on the map and allows you to see where you've flown and can help you identify how to get back to a thermal, okay, and which way the thermal is drifting. Okay, so it's drawing like a snake following you as you fly along. Okay.
At the trace we will see in the graphic then
we will see
later on.
Yeah. Yes. If you wanted to do auto zoom or not, so it will zoom in automatically when the trace is when you are in a thermal. The grey lines, what it does is it draws the climb. So the parts of the trace where you're climbing, it'll draw in black, and the other parts, the one where you're not climbing, it'll draw in grey. If you switch that off, it'll draw everything in black. So it won't draw in grey. And another one is the track up or the north up. So track up, the track is always in front of you, and as you turn, things move around you on the map, or with the track not up, so the north is up, you have your little arrow which is turning around, and the map stays static. Okay, I like to fly with the track with the north up. It gives me a good idea of which direction things are going and the way the thermals are inclined and so on. It's much easier to understand for me, but some people prefer having the map going around.
Do you want to step into the trace?
Yeah, we can go to show some trace here, just for them to see. Okay, so we go to the flight screen. This is an airspace. This is a trace. Okay. Hopefully this computer stop working. Okay, so let's take off. 40 kilometers per hour, let's say. And let's turn around there. Okay, I just received a warning because I'm flying inside airspace. And it automatically jumped. We'll see how this works. It's automatically jumped to the airspace screen, and it's now telling me that I'm in airspace. We will go into that in a minute. Let's take a look here. Let me see if I level off. Not sure if this camera is showing properly. Okay, I need to zoom in because I had auto zoom disabled. Okay, there we go. Can you see it? Okay, so now it's basically drawing in grey lines because since we're not climbing. Okay, let's recenter the map. And so you can see it leaves the trace of where you've been flying. It's this line here. The camera doesn't show too well. Now that's the grey line. If you got some climb, I'm not sure if I can simulate that, because that you need to have, it's using the Vario, and the Vario when you have won't work because when we're sitting on the ground. Let me do a menu and go to the trace settings, and we go to the trace, and we will set grey lines to no, and you'll see the difference now. Okay, there you go. I've been flying around in a circle. Let's go out somewhere. Okay, so now okay, that's the trace. Okay. It gives you the last several minutes of flight, approximately 5 minutes.
That's available in all instruments?
All instruments, except for the Vario, which doesn't have the GPS. Obviously. Okay. Okay, so that's the trace. Let's go back to the settings again. And the settings. Okay, the screen, this allows you to change the contrast of the screen. So make it according to the type of light that you have. Usually the default setting is the one that works best. An important thing over here is the disable triggers. Now, what you guys saw a second ago where I went into the airspace and all of a sudden the instrument went to the page where I have the airspace, that's a trigger. Okay? There's for each screen on the instrument, you can define a set of automatic triggers. This means that when something happens, it automatically jumps to that page on the instrument. Okay, so let's say when you go into a thermal, you want to go to a particular screen where you have things related to the thermal. Now this all has to do with the fact that you can configure the instrument completely. You can change with an application I'll show you in a few minutes. You can change everything on the instrument and you can create pages to your liking. Okay? So for instance, in the airspace, I have one page which I have the airspace map. I have some information about the airspace. So in that page, I wanted to go, if I have an airspace violation, I want the airspace to jump to that page. Okay? And this is what triggers does. If you disable triggers, it won't jump automatically from page to page. Okay? Usually I have them on. Okay, here in the languages where you can set the languages and all the different types of units. So here in Europe, it's all set up for Europe. Probably the only thing you'll be changing here is maybe the language and maybe the type of degrees that you're using. You can use different types of coordinates: degrees, minutes, and UTM coordinates.
And you always step in the settings with enter.
Yeah, that's one thing. All the settings, it's common to all the instruments. When you're inside the menu, by pushing the enter button, you automatically jump into the editing section. In the editing section, by pushing enter, you move to the next one. By pushing menu, you move back to the previous one. Okay? So I could say, let's change this to Dutch. Okay? Push enter. Now, it only confirms that you've actually changed it when you go past the last item. Okay? If I go back and I go back again, you see it goes back to English. It wasn't changed. Okay? But if I go and change this to...
Don't make a mistake now.
Okay? And I push enter, 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 enter. When I go past the last one, that's when it'll assume the new settings. Okay? So let me put this back to English, otherwise I won't be able to navigate. And we're back to English. Okay. So, as I said, what you've been changing here is the language and maybe the coordinate system that you want to use. If you want to know something more about coordinates, I can explain that to you later. Any questions so far? Okay. Device settings. This allows you, just in case you've configured something wrong and you don't know what's going on, you can reset the settings back to the factory default, so that you can put the settings back just in case you've screwed something up. RF probes. This is used to configure the other external devices. By pushing enter over here, it'll show you a menu of what devices are available. Maybe we can try that. So here's the heart rate monitor that we would use. Let me push enter here, and on doing so, it sees this pitot tube. This is a new product that we're working on, and here's it's gone off. If I switch it on by touching it. You see immediately detected it. So all I need to do is go down here, push enter, and say yes, enter, and so this is connected now. Right, so now the information that comes from here will be available on the instrument.
And also automatically, so it knows the hard G.
So it knows that it's this hard G. Each of these has its unique ID and needs to be paired. Okay, so all the different devices.
Can you check those data you collected by the hard G on the computer later on?
You can. We're still working on an application because it's not a standard thing, because nobody uses this, and we're using standard applications for downloading. The information is stored, but at the moment there's still no download. I still don't have a Google Earth that can actually show that.
Okay.
Where it's working at the moment already is in the live tracking, which shows you your heart rate.
So, but later on I can check if my heartbeat is going faster if I hear the alarm sound by syncing with 50 meters per second.
Exactly.
Okay, and I can show this to my friends on Facebook.
And you can show it to your friends on Facebook. Exactly. That's the nice thing. Okay, continuing here. This one is only available on the live and the nav. Basically, you can have a set of fields of data elements. I've got to show you then how to set up screens, where you can actually change on takeoff those fields. Okay, so I think I'll leave this for later, otherwise it doesn't make any sense if I try to explain it now. Okay. The function keys. As I mentioned before, there are several function keys. So this is function 1, 2, and 3. And you can allocate a function to each of these keys. For instance, I've allocated function 1 to set the volume. So if I go here, this won't set the volume. Okay? And it won't set the volume for one reason, because this is a map. And when there's a map, we've done it so that the arrow up and down always work as zoom. So you can zoom into the map and zoom out of the map. Okay? So those functions are only available on pages where there's no map, which is this case here. Okay? If I push this button, let's go to the other one here. There's no map here also. So I'm going to push this button, and if you look at the top, you'll see there's the volume there. I'm not sure if you can see it.
Yeah.
Here we go. So I'm going to push that button, and you'll see it'll. Okay. Every time I push it, I get a different volume. Okay. This is because I adjusted this button to do this. Okay. This is the standard setting, but you can set it to whatever you like. So I could, for instance, on this setting, decide maybe I want to put adjust altimeter 0 because I don't want to change the volume. In my case, I don't usually change the volume. I keep the same volume. So I don't have that button usually for setting the volume. I would use that. Oh yeah, we got already altimeter 2. You can reset altimeter 2 by pushing F2, and function 3 to switch from page to page. Okay, but you can adjust any of these to any function you want. Okay, there's a lot of functions available. So one is going to the airfields. I'll explain that later. Reset altimeter 2. Task navigator is going to there's another screen I'll show you as well. Setting the altimeter directly. It will go into the altimeter settings. Page browser. We'll also get into that. Skip to the next waypoint directly. Switch to a certain page.
Can I create my own screens?
Yes, you can. I will show you that in a